This episode brought to you by John Kramer Medical Devices. Are you tired of dealing with itchy eyes? Come on down and give our patented eyeball sucker a try. In 3 short minutes, you'll never have to deal with itchy eyes ever again. We have a special for today only. If you buy 1 eyeball sucker, you get a DIY lobotomy. Don't worry, we don't only welcome voyeurism, we encourage it.
Is this a metal thing?
Yes.
Little taste.
David, what is this?
Pretty thick.
Brain.
I have to kill a lot of people! Just tell me what you want me to fuck!
I have big tits and a tiny vagina.
Oil me up, Daddy.
I can't believe that Bryce prefers big tits.
Mistletoe alert.
This is backcountry.
This guy was a real jerk.
How long can Ugo be pregnant?
Chomp, 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 chomp.
Oh, you're such a dick, David.
Okay, everybody, put on your corpse handling gloves.
Ew.
Hoodie Picasso. Horror!
Hello, and welcome to Horror Movie Talk. I'm here with Bryce, the heartthrob of horror Hansen, and I'm Kyle, the sensei of slashers Nolan. This week, that's right, folks, Bryce is back and currently auditioning new co-host. I'm very excited to be here with you. We are going back to our roots, reviewing the only movies that matter, horror movies. New theatrical releases always get priority, but we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Full video available on YouTube. Don't be a square, and make sure you share. Also, check out Patreon/Horror Movies Talk to evaluate the equivalent of adult section at your video rental store. If you want to add your P to the community pool, go to horrormovietalk.com or call 682-253-4468 and leave us a voicemail. I
gotta say, out of all the co-hosts that have been recording with me, I don't think anyone's got the both good and horrible. They
I've been
always
practicing.
say horrible. You know, it's not just you. Everyone. It's written out horrible, but
it's
it's
kind of a
just too much
tough
of a mouthful.
little tongue twister, a little bit. To be honest, you have practice. That's the problem.
That's true. Yeah, it's not fair.
Yeah, you have good practice.
I'm a veteran.
What is it going on, like 6 years now or something?
Yeah, we hit 5 years. Yeah, I think we hit 5 years in July.
If you were an NFL player, you'd be retired already. So, I mean, you got
Exactly,
really good. Yeah.
I mean, David is.
That's true. So is the plus.
Yes,
It is
so is
also
the plus.
retired. We've got a great show for you today. We will be discussing and breaking down Saw X, a 2023 horror film directed by Kevin, I can never pronounce his last name,
Gruter?
Gruter, and written by Peter Goldfinger and Josh, another awful last name, Dolteberg, starring Tobin Bell. We'll start out by giving a brief review of our scores of the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being bottom of the barrel, and 10 being a genre redefining movie. After we give our scores, we will get into spoilers and take a deep dive into what we liked and hated about the film. Later, we will be doing Saw movie trivia that I put together that I'm pretty excited by. And then we'll get into like the review right now. If that works for you guys. Is that good for you, Bryce?
That's good for me.
All right. So Saw X can be found in theaters and can be rented for $19.99 on YouTube, Apple TV, and where I watched it, Prime. So a little synopsis of the movie is for Saw X. In Saw X, you will see the return of John Kramer, and he is searching for a cure for his terminal brain cancer. As he goes through a grieving process of his own mortality, he runs into a friend that may hold the key to a cure. Experimental surgery that is groundbreaking, exactly what John needs. We get to follow John through his journey to health, but finds out it's not all what it appears. With hope fading, John is ready to play a game, and all new traps, but the same gore that we have come to expect from the franchise. So this movie, I didn't hate. Overall, I did enjoy the movie. It had me squirming in my seat and kept me engaged for most of the film. I don't think it broke any new ground. It wasn't a masterpiece, but I do believe it was the best Saw since the first Saw. I think it's the best follow up. Um, it's what you would expect.
How many of the Saw movies have you seen?
Every single one of them, including Spiral. But a lot of people don't count Spiral as a Saw movie for some reason when I was doing the research for this movie. They don't.
That's weird.
Because this is Saw 10, but it would be a Saw 11 if you counted Spiral. If that makes sense.
Has there really been 9 other Saw movies?
Well, you got Saw 1, 2, 3D. They had a lot of awful ones in between. Like, ones that should have never even been made ever.
Yeah, I thought that was like a misnomer. I thought it was just Saw X because it sounds cool. It's like iOS X.
Actually, the name of the movie irritates the shit out of me. It makes me very upset. And it's because... So, if you don't know, this movie takes place a week after the first Saw. So, it's a direct sequel to number 1, but a prequel to number 2. So, instead of calling it Saw 10... Can we just call it like Saw the Lost Tapes or something? I mean, anything besides 10, because it's not really... They did the George Lucas like 2-step on us, like they went back and they made it confusing, which really irritated me.
See, I've only seen the original Saw and then like the recent 2. So I've seen Spiral and the recent one. I think that was just called Saw, wasn't it? It didn't even have a number on it.
Jigsaw.
No, I don't think I saw Jigsaw. It was whatever the last one was.
I thought it was Jigsaw.
Was it Jigsaw?
I'm pretty sure. I could be way wrong though, honestly.
So was it Jigsaw? Oh, maybe I was probably just thinking of Spiral then. Never mind.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've seen 2 through whatever. So we got Saw 2, Saw 3. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3D.
Yeah.
Jigsaw, Spiral, and then Saw X.
You kind of know the franchise is dying when they have to throw 3D in there.
It is actually the 10th movie. So this is the correct Saw.
No, it is, but like the way where it takes place in the timeline, kind of just like we'll get into it in the spoilers because there's things I want to say really bad to you about why I hate the name, but it will give away everything once I do that.
Fair enough.
I am happy that we get to follow John and we see another side of him and get more character development. There's definitely parts of this movie that don't make sense to me, but it's pretty much. You know what you're getting when you go in. It's not gonna have the best storylines. It's not gonna have. It's Saw kicked off war porn in a big way. It was a whole new genre, basically, of movies. And the first one was actually. Now that I've rewatched it, I feel like it's not as good as I remember it being. I feel like it was kind of a little bit boring, a little bit, to be honest with you. But I mean. Overall, pretty good movie. I think for my score for this movie, I was struggling with it. I really didn't know where to rank it because I think it's a great sequel. I think it's an entertaining movie, but it's kind of like repackaged again. Like Saws are all going to be the same. You know what you're getting. You're getting traps. You're getting revenge from a sickly old man. So I'm going to go with a solid 6.5, and I think that's a good rating for it. To be honest with you.
Sorry, Kyle. You gotta land on whole integer numbers.
No, you can't do it to me.
6.5. You got either go 6 or 7.
So it's so bad because I don't think it's quite either one of them. But if you're gonna force me to do it, I'm gonna go with a 7. That's tough. That hurts me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's the game we play. Yeah, I mean, for me, this one. Again, I haven't seen all the Saws, but it's pretty mid. I think I give it a 5. Like, honestly, like it's okay. It's got its flaws, mostly in just being a little boring. Here's the thing. It focuses a lot on what's his name?
John Kramer.
John Kramer, which, I mean, again, I like people that are fans of the franchise. There's probably a lot of lore and a lot of stuff that happens with John Kramer that I'm just not aware of, but it's just a character that doesn't seem that interesting to me in this movie. He's like kind of, detached, and you're like, okay, so am I supposed to care about John Kramer, this sadistic killer? Because that's kind of what they're trying to do.
Well,
I think he's got a heart of gold. He just wants to help people. Like,
well, his rules doesn't land. His rules have always been, I don't kill people; they kill themselves, right? So I think they're trying to really play on that one with this one. Like, hey, I'm not doing it. Like, I set the stage, and they pull the levers. It's very. In my defense of giving it a 7, is I'm basing it off all the other sequels too.
Yeah,
so I've seen them all.
But I mean, trying to like make the good guy, the guy that's making people actively harm themselves. Yeah, I don't. It's not too convincing for me, and it's got like, some of the other side characters that are helping them, and I assume that's explored in the other movies. But for me, it's like, okay, the setup. So like the first half of the movie, there's no Saw stuff. It's like it's literally just following John Kramer getting his cancer treated.
Well, he has that one flash, like daydream, like he's fantasizing about,
right?
But other than that, you're right. It's kind of just, hey, this is what's going on.
So yeah, it's kind of weird because it's pretty slow at the beginning around John and trying to make him a sympathetic character, which I mean, for me, never worked. Like part of the allure, I think, is like he's kind of heartless. He's kind of like completely unemotional. So like trying to make him your protagonist is like not compelling. And then it gets into like, the actual Saw movie where there's a bunch of people put in precarious situations and yeah, some of them are shocking. But I mean, once you're in a 10th movie, like coming up with these elaborate things is like, they kind of start getting dumb.
Well, they've kind of run out of ideas, I think. I think they brought him back, and like when you have to bring back your main character you've already killed off, like it's okay. You're out of maybe let the franchise rest. Just let it go. Let it be done.
Yeah, I mean, probably the thing about these movies that's like where they can't put it down is like they're probably just so cheap to make and make money very, very easily, because literally, like, sure, you got some production with like the the setups and whatnot, but like honestly, they're all, I mean, this one in particular is like basically half the movie is in a single location, and it all happens in one room, and you let it play out.
The budget will be part of the trivia.
Yeah.
And one of them's kind of shocking, like how much, very shocking how much they make and they're made for.
Right.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
though.
I mean, same thing with Saw. I mean, Saw happened almost entirely in one room. Like, there's a couple other locations, but it's all like hotel rooms. It's literally like.
You didn't think that one's boring too? Saw 1, a little boring, like
Saw 1 is a little boring. Yeah, on rewatch. Like, I don't have like a ton of nostalgia for Saw 1, but like, it's one of those movies. Like at the time, it's just a great concept, and so it gets so much mileage from the concept itself. It's the same thing with me about Survivor. Like, I remember when I was in high school and they announced the show Survivor, and I was like, holy shit, so it's just a movie, it's just a show about people on an island, they have to survive? Like, that's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a great concept, and then you watch the show and you're like, oh, this is lame.
It's funny that you bring Survivor up, because I watched it, the original season like everyone in the world did, right?
Uh-huh.
My wife never watched Survivor, so we're actually currently, last night we watched the newest episode of the newest Survivor, and it has gone so far beyond, like, obviously staged, obviously, you know.
Yeah, it's a game show. I mean, that's
My
the
wife
most disappointing
loves
part
it.
of it is like, oh, this isn't about surviving and about like living off the land. It's literally a game show with
Yeah.
like the set dressing of being, you know, where they're hungry.
She
But
loves
yeah,
it, though.
I mean, now there's actually shows that were what I thought Survivor was going to be, which was Alone.
Love
Alone
it.
is a fantastic show. But yeah, same thing with like Saw, where it's like the concept is you get so much mileage off of it. It's like, oh, they're chained up and they have a saw that's not sharp enough to saw through the chains, but it's sharp enough to saw through their hand. That's all you got to know, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's a great concept. And so they're just kind of spinning it out from there and getting kind of kooky with the sequels. But yeah, and in terms of this movie, it's all right. I can't imagine that the other Saw movies are particularly better or worse than this one.
They're not better.
I could tell that like it's probably a departure because it is taking a step back and like actually trying to tell a story as opposed to just like setting up and executing like all these set pieces. So I can respect it that way, but just as a movie on its own, it's not that great to me.
Yeah, see, I think if I looked at it just in the frame of this movie, but it was hard for me to do that since I've seen the other movies, and like we never really got a lot of backstory for John in any of the movies. So I like the fact that they're trying to build the character, but I do agree with you. Like you're still a murderer, dude. You're still a serial killer. You are a massive serial killer. Like you're huge.
Right.
Just because you're not pulling the trigger, you literally set them in impossible things, you know, and 99.9% of the population is going to die every time they're in your trap. I don't care what you say, they're going to die.
Well, I mean, the whole premise of saying like, oh, he can't be convicted because he's not actually killing him. Well, obviously that's not like just anyone without a law degree can see like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But also like, don't undercut the fact that like, no, I'm not killing them. I'm just putting them in a device that tortures them regardless of whether they're getting killed or not.
Yeah.
Like, if you lock someone up and make them saw off their hand, it's like, no, you are making the person saw off their hand. That's what you are doing, and that's not legal.
I'm setting them free, he says. You making them better. If you make me cut a piece of my body part off, I'm not a better person. I'm going to be very mad, very pissed off, and like not want to live no more.
Well, Kyle, that's very ableist of you. I mean, I think that if you cut off your hand, that doesn't make you better or worse than anyone. But that's just me.
It makes me worse than what I was before, though.
Does it, though?
Yeah.
I mean,
which
are
hand?
you less of a person if you don't have a hand?
Which hand are we talking? Because that's a big thing.
You know, it doesn't matter. I'm not an ableist. I am...
And I'm not a pitch hitter, so I have to use one hand and one hand exclusively. So...
Anyways.
If you're listening to these commercials, and you should know you don't have to, stop living like a pilgrim and listening to commercials and go check out Patreon. And also check out the HMT shop. You can check out our resident artist, Dustin Goebel. Did I say his name right?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay, so making sure. I knew I did. He's a professional artist who fucks hard. He also takes commissions for artwork from HMT fans. Contact him at dgoebel100 on Instagram and make your artistic dream come true. Tell him that HMT sent you. The phone number is 682-253-4468. And we're going to get into spoilers right now.
Okay, let's get into it.
Can I start off with just saying what really took me out of this movie and why I'm mad about the name of the movie is why, if it takes place a week after Saw, does John and Amanda look 20 years older? They did nothing besides put a wig on her. Like, we have technology now that make people look younger, and you guys didn't even try to do that. Did you get that at all? Like, we didn't watch all the movies.
Again, I haven't seen the sequels with the girl in it. Like, that one would be the one that, like, would probably be the more obvious one. Like, John, he's supposed to be an old man the whole time, so if he looks older than he used to, it's like, yeah, whatever. He's supposed to be an old,
He looks
cancerous
much
dude.
older.
Yeah, but yeah, the woman, it's like it's weird because she's got an early 2000s haircut, like a pixie cut.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't. She's too old for that haircut. Like,
Well, it's a bad
the
wig,
haircut
too.
itself dates her. Yeah.
It's not even a good
Yeah.
wig. You threw it on, and I was like, oh okay. Like, yeah, that looks like a wig. It doesn't even look like hair. It honestly really irritated me. The whole movie, I was focused on how old these people looked, and it kind of takes you out of the, like, oh, okay, so you guys just don't care. Like, you didn't care at all. I don't know. To me, it was a major, like, fail in that aspect. And then, like, some of the traps are really good. I like the traps. They seem almost impossible to complete, though. Like, no way to win. Besides the first one. The actual first trap, where he's got to break his fingers, or he's going to lose his eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
To me, that's an easy trap to beat, though. I'm cranking it to 5, and letting snap my fingers off. I do not want to lose my sight at all.
Yeah, I mean, I get it in the moment. Like, you might hesitate to inflict yourself a ton of pain in the moment, but yeah, that's probably the easiest one to get out of, and probably the lightest that anyone gets off on in Saw movies, because it's literally like, okay, so I'm going to have my fingers and some splints for a couple weeks, and then I'll be fine. Like,
easy
people
money.
break their fingers all the time.
No big deal.
Yeah. It's a lot better than sawing off a hand, or, like, digging out a piece of your gray matter.
That was a wild
But yeah,
one.
I mean, that one was pretty light, but also probably one of the cooler ones in terms of, like, the effects being getting your eyeball sucked out.
Yes.
Makes for a great poster too.
What was your favorite trap?
Let's see. So we got the eyeball one. We've got the saw, the Geely saw, bone marrow. My favorite in terms of, like, for the film, or the favorite in terms of, like, that's the most interesting concept?
The most interesting concept.
Yeah, honestly, I think the eyeball sucking one is probably the best one, to be honest.
It's kind of like the visuals of it is kind of jarring, when they actually suck down and
It's pretty good.
and they
Like,
break. You see a couple fingers break. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. The rest of them are, like, so extreme and, like, don't make a ton of sense. Like, so we've got the one where she has to saw off her entire leg and then suck out bone marrow, to where it's like, Jesus Christ, like, that's a bit extreme. And also, like, yeah, I guess all the other stuff is just, it seems unfair, because almost everyone that dies, like, they're actively doing it, but they're literally, like, 3 seconds off.
Yes.
So fuck you.
Give me
Like,
a little
man.
extra time. I mean,
Yeah.
I honestly,
I feel like if you stab a suction needle into your femur bone, you win. Like,
Yeah,
that should be the cutoff.
That's
Like,
done.
I mean, it's like putting a hat on a hat with the weighing the bone marrow. It's like, all right, we get it. Like, what's the benefit here?
Well, the fact that he can say, "Oh, I'm a good guy," dude. You're not. You're a sick fuck, dude. You're twisted. Like, if you came up with this, there's something mentally wrong with you, like a chemical imbalance in your brain. Fuck.
Yeah. So then they've got, I can't remember, what's the one right after the bone marrow one?
It was It wasn't the lobotomy? No. Let's see. There was the lobotomy, the bone marrow. The heater.
The heater, and was that it? Was there only 4 people?
Well, and then they had the one with John, which was a confusing one. Just in all of the begin with, that's the most confusing out of all the whole movie. That confused me the most.
Yeah, that it kind of goes off the rails there. So they had the bone marrow one, and then the lobotomy one, which for me, there's a couple things that always bother me. Like it still makes me squirm when I see it. Anything to do with the brain, like anything like with that is messed up. But for some reason, this one wasn't that bad because they didn't go too hard on it. Because like the worst thing about the brain injury stuff in horror movies is the after effects of it, and they didn't show any after effects with the guy. So it's like, oh, it just sounds like he was just ripping off a piece of his arm or something. It seemed as bad.
What a poor guy, though. I mean, did all that work just to fucking die.
Oh, you know what? We missed one. It was the pipe bomb, like attached to the arm.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
That was pretty doable, I think.
Yeah, that's doable. Pretty extreme.
I'm not doing it.
The plot hole with that one is like if you cut off, half of the muscles on your forearm on one arm, how does that arm have the ability to function to cut off the other arm?
I immediately thought that, and I looked at my wife. I was like, "Well, something doesn't make sense here. Like, I don't know how you could possibly function."
Yeah. So brain scenes, like the one that gets me always is the scene in Hannibal where Hannibal's cooking. I think is it Ray Liotta's brain?
It might be.
It's someone's brain where he like is slicing off parts of his brain and then cooking them for Julianne Moore.
Doesn't he feed it to a little girl later on on the plane?
Yeah, I think so.
Nasty.
Yeah. But that and seeing like him seeing the actor being like actively lobotomized and like drooling progressively as his brain is, that and like the Starship Troopers when the brain is getting sucked out, like that shit just disturbs me. And this one was like, he seemed no worse for wear, after he pulled out his brain. But then he still, again, he loses. It's like, I mean, come on, man.
Well, I mean, that's a lose-lose.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's that. So yeah, the traps were interesting. The heat gun one was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, they're all packed into like the last act, and it's very. That's the thing about it is like if you're going to a Saw movie, you want these traps sprinkled throughout. You want like a pretty consistent string of deaths, and ramping it up to the final one. And this is like waiting for the first 2 acts to finally get to the Saw movie.
Yeah,
and like I'm not sure how well fans of the franchise would probably receive that.
I have an issue with the lead up to the traps, though. Surgery. So he has surgery. First off, the carjacking scene was not needed at all. I don't think they need the carjacking scene at all. It could have took that whole thing out of the movie, I feel like. But
yeah, it's just confusing because it was trying to obfuscate it for some reason. It's like, but wait, why would they do that?
Exactly. They're leaving anyways. They left. They weren't there. So like, why would he need to be blindfolded to go there if you're gonna pack up and leave anyways? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
But him not knowing he didn't have real surgery the next day really boggles my mind. Like, I don't care who you are. You're gonna touch. You're gonna try to feel it. You're gonna feel something. They didn't even cut his head. At least cut his head open. And stitch it up. For him not to know that was very. I was like, well, there's no way. Like, that's not possible. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like shoddy workmanship in terms of con men because like you should have at least cut a circle in his head and then sutured it up, like
at the very least,
or at least shave his head. Jesus Christ!
Anything.
They didn't even shave his head at all.
Yeah, put some fake blood on the bandages or something. Anything.
Yeah, and they didn't even like anesthetize him. Like they anesthetized him before they shaved his head. Yeah, it just doesn't. Yeah, it seems pretty late. John seems kind of dumb, not figuring that out sooner.
Honestly.
Yeah, it's a little weird. It was a good twist. Like I'll say, like it is kind of an interesting setup. But man, it takes so long to set it up. I'm not sure if it's worth it. Like I was pretty, I was like, all right, let's get on with it. Like,
so
what are we doing here?
The payoff wasn't there. Like it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say it wasn't engaging because like I was paying attention through the movie, but it wasn't that interesting. Is the thing,
yeah.
And it gets to the twist, and you're like, okay, that's kind of interesting, but it's not enough of a payoff for kind of the boring lead up to it.
What'd you feel about the last trap? That's where I want to know. When the kid.
Yeah, that one was weird. Like that gets confusing because they're on the last lady, and then, the lady gets broken out by her boyfriend. It's kind of this elaborate switcheroo. But then the last trap requires 2 people for it to work.
Yeah.
And so they have to find another person, and no one asked the question of like, wait a minute, how is this going to work if I was the last one? Like, you'd think you'd be curious about that.
They made it seem like he planned the whole thing out, but I don't know how you could possibly plan out that kid being there and then him coming to the place and being in the room with her and them torturing each other while they run in to get the money and getting gas. I don't understand how you could manage to think of any of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like a Hollywood trope of like, don't worry about it. Everyone knows everything. Like, the person that wins had it all set up. Like, if you watch like, Ocean's 11 or like another movie that does that real bad is the Now You See Me.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's just like, okay, so we can just say you can save your protagonist however you want by saying like, oh, they knew this was going to happen because they're so smart. It's like, okay,
I feel like it's lazy kind of.
At a certain point it breaks down. You're like, this is dumb, and it starts breaking down in this movie at the end. But yeah, the final tool, I mean, I guess the penultimate tool with, John and the kid attached to it is just basically a waterboard with blood, which also is kind of one of the easiest ones to get around because, like, he could just turn his head.
Yeah. No, yeah,
like,
yeah, for
you
sure.
could just go, like that, and it'd be fine. Like, there was nothing like holding his head. It was like a neck brace.
Well, it brings up more questions about John's sanity, too. Like, John, if you knew this was going to happen and you let a kid go through that, you're kind of a piece of shit. I mean, you set the kid up like that?
I mean, it's implied that he set up the kid. Like, if that was the plan all along, then he had the kid there, and for some reason they knew that the sound was a kid kicking a soccer ball into the wall for some reason. Yeah, that was also weird because it shows the security cam, but the people in the room can't see the security cam, but they all seem to know exactly what it is, as opposed to being like, what the fuck is that sound? Go check.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, hey, it's a kid kicking a soccer ball. Let's go get that kid kicking a soccer ball and bring him in here.
But it's like, at the end, John's like, hey.
It gets lazy.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And at the end, John's like, hey, I'm sorry I tortured you and probably scarred you for life, but here's like millions of dollars. Go walk through your Mexican village and not get robbed. Like, it don't make sense. It's so crazy that's like I feel like the movie was pretty decent until like that end. The waterboarding thing.
And John didn't take any of his own money back?
Yeah.
Like, I'd take a couple stacks out of there.
It was millions and millions. I'm taking more than a couple stacks. I'm gonna hook the kid up. But you're in Mexico. I mean, the money's gonna stretch. Okay, I'm in America. I need a little bit more. It doesn't go that long.
Give him one stack of those 50s, and he can retire.
Set for life.
Yeah. So that was confusing. And then the actual last trap was between the girl and her boyfriend, which was just basically one person can stick their head out of this poison gas filled room and survive. But then it's also confusing because they let her survive. Is she in later movies as like another character or something? Because
I don't remember
she
her.
survives.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I don't remember her at all. So it's almost like they're setting up another. So this is how I think it's going to happen. So like I said, this is a direct sequel to number one and a prequel to number two. I think they're going to shove in another movie in between this one and two. So like I don't know what you'd call it this time. I mean, I guess 11, but it's going to be another prequel.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a sequel though. Maybe it'll be a true 11, but then for some reason this lady still looks very young for it being 10 years later. Like,
I mean, yeah, they're not going to do anything to fix it.
Good balancing act.
Yeah, but I honestly do think they're trying to reboot the whole franchise, and they're going to be more movies coming out. And at this point, I'm okay if you let the franchise die. I mean, you can just let it go, put it to the grave, you know. But they do it to every movie. They bring out so many sequels to so many, try to reboot all these franchises, and it's just we don't need it. We don't want it. We want new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, with like the Formula Ones, where it's like it's the setup that's the movie. It's not actually anything, you know, anything that happens in the movie necessarily. It's like, yeah, it's easy to do sequels of like Hostel and Saw.
Yeah.
Or, you know, Wrong Turn. It's like, no, it's the setup that's the interesting part, and you can reuse that setup over and over again. It doesn't matter what you put around it.
But Wrong Turn went way wrong, way fast, and hard. I try to watch one of the newer ones. The newest one I don't mind because it's better than what came before it, I feel like. All the sequels. But like, I try to watch some of those sequels, and I can't do it. I cannot get through them. They're so bad. To me, it's not worth watching. Those aren't worth watching to me.
Yeah, I can't. I've only seen the first one, I think. So, but I can imagine how bad that can go.
You haven't seen the newest one?
No, we missed it.
It's way different. I feel like it's not horrible, but it's not great. So who do you think would like this film?
I mean, fans of the Saw franchise, obviously. Like, you kind of know what you're getting, but like, it kind of takes a step back. It adds in a little like Spiral did, where it's like it's trying to add actually a storyline, you know, other than just a bunch of traps. So, you know, take that as you will. It's an okay movie. I wouldn't see it in the theaters. Like, well, I guess it's not in theaters now. But yeah, I mean, if you're a completionist and you're a Saw fan, you'll like it.
I think if you like, basically, if you just like the Saw franchise, if you're right. I mean, there's really, I guess anyone can really enjoy it if you like the traps themselves, but anyone that likes Saw is going to like the movie. I did like it. There was a little bit more character development from John. I honestly, myself and a lot of people, wish that they would have followed the Spiral storyline and start like its own franchise. Because what I read is Chris Rock is that one that kind of came up with the whole concept of Spiral because he wanted to get into more serious and more horror movies. Mm-hmm. So it actually was weird that they didn't go along with that, I feel like. But I think as long as you like Saw movies, you'll like this movie. I wouldn't go to theaters. Yeah. I'm actually upset that I paid $20 to watch it. But I did. So it is what it is, you know. You take the L's when you have to.
Uh-huh.
But do you want to do our game?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So Saw trivia. Let me get... I have all the answers on my phone because I can't remember all of them. I tried really hard to come up with a game. It is. I applaud you for doing it because it is very hard to come up with a game, especially with this movie. So I don't have very many questions.
That's all right.
Let's see. Okay. Which Saw made the least amount of money opening week?
The least amount of money?
So you got Saw 3D, Saw 3, Jigsaw, and Saw 6.
I'm going to say Saw 6.
You're right. It did make the least amount of money. And let me find... because I have them all written down. But... I'm using someone's borrowed laptop. So Saw 6 made. You know what really throws me off also is the Roman numerals. I've never been good at Roman numerals.
Oh, Saw X is 10.
Yeah, yeah, I got that one. So Saw 6 made $69.8 million. That's it. And then, let's see, I have another good question. What movie... Where am I at? I'm sorry, guys. Okay, yeah. Which movie outperformed Saw X? Saw X made $18 million opening week, which landed it in second place. Which movie outperformed it?
Saw 2.
Paw Patrol beat it opening week with 23.
On opening
yeah,
weekend.
yeah.
Oh, it's opening weekend. Okay.
With 23
Sorry, I was
million.
thinking out of the other Saws.
It made 23 million, and Saw X made 18 million. So it was kind
Paw
of
Patrol's on the roll.
killed it, and my daughter loves it. It's like crack to these kids. It really is.
Yep.
And then YouTube Kids, I hate it so much. Saw X had a budget of $13 million. So what Saw movie had the the smallest budget? Hang on, no. What was the budget of Saw, the original Saw movie? So Saw X had $13 million budget. The original Saw's budget was either 1.2 million, 3 million, 2.1 million, or 900,000.
Yeah, it'd probably be the least. 900,000.
It was Saw. The original Saw only had $900,000 budget, and that's what you were saying in the beginning. You know, it made a lot of money though. It made $103.9 million off of that small of a budget.
Dude, like, if there's anything about like late 90s, early 2000s horror movies, it's like they definitely cracked the code for budget to return, like return on investment for horror movies.
And they kicked out
Like
so many.
Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity, Saw, like all of these are still in the top 10 like return on investment horror movies of all time.
Yeah, that's another one like Paranormal Activity. I don't know what they let it die. We don't need another one. We are good.
Yeah.
There's so many of them. But I mean, the original one I liked. It was kind of different. But like the last one was not even a Paranormal Activity movie. It was just a movie. It's super weird.
Yeah.
What are your takeaways from this movie? Like, if this was your first time ever watching a Saw movie, would this lead you into watching another one?
Maybe. I mean, it wouldn't be super compelling just because it's not the type of movie that I particularly like. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, I guess that's not true. I like me some torture porn. Like, I think one of my favorite movies is Human Centipede. But it has to hit like a sweet spot of like kitschy and exploitative and like just over the top.
Yes.
And the Saw movies do a relatively good job of that. Yeah, I might see another one, but I'm not really good with sequels. Like, even if with movies that I really like, I usually don't see a lot of the sequels.
You just don't care to do it, or like you just forget about them?
Just because there's usually such a drop off in like the
Quality,
the novelty level of the movie itself.
Oh, okay.
Like, kind of drops off. So I don't know. I think the movies, like some of my favorite horror movies that I've seen, most of the sequels, Paranormal Activity, I've seen probably all but 2 of the sequels. And those actually hold up pretty good. Like, I think 2 and 3 are as good as the first one, if not better. Poltergeist, I've seen the sequels to that, and that like is just interesting because that's like a case of it ventures into like TV movie land.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like the budget and the quality kind of drops off pretty precipitously, but they're still pretty good, and they have some really good set pieces in them. I just watched Exorcist 2.
Yeah.
And I've seen Exorcist 3. I think I've seen like a couple of prequels too. But yeah, I mean, it's like they're. I mean, they're not even. I don't even treat them as like most of the time as sequels. I just treat them as like, yeah, those are just other horror movies that just aren't very good. You know,
Well, we talked
and I
about
just keep
that when we first met.
the original on the pedestal.
Yeah, we talked about when we first met. Like, you can't capture lightning in a bottle twice with Exorcist. It's almost a perfect film. And then, but it's been so oversaturated with these types of movies, right? Exorcism movies. Exorcism of Emily Lee Rose, The Last Exorcist, you know, The Exorcism of Deborah, whatever her name was, and all these different movies that was, so we were burned out on it. The original was king. So I was gonna watch Exorcist Believers before Saw 10, but I'm like, man, do I really want to go through that and watch that and be upset? Like, I don't think I want to do that. So I watched this one instead and was less upset and I was entertained. I'm not gonna say I wasn't entertained, but I'm really nervous to watch the new Exorcist. Very nervous.
Yeah, I just have a sick fascination with Exorcist Believer that I feel I have to watch it.
Oh, you have to do it.
But yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Are you even excited?
I don't know if it's streaming yet. Is it streaming yet?
Yeah, for $20. Are you even a little bit excited to see it though?
I'm pretty sure it's gonna be bad. Like I've heard enough about it. I've heard like one or two things about it that makes me think that it's gonna be pretty awful.
Well,
Exorcist Believer comes out on Peacock on December 1st.
Oh, so I'll just wait.
I won't have to wait too long.
I like how they try to bring back characters from the original. It's like, dude, this it doesn't help.
Well, that's the thing. Like Ellen Burstyn is the best part of the original, and it sounds like they just don't respect the character at all.
I heard she's like not
okay.
in it very very much either.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird.
Yeah, so I'm not expecting anything.
So I do have some.
But...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I do have some horror movie news. The trailer, a new trailer dropped called Imaginary, which we were talking about on the Afterpod. It's a new horror movie from the minds that brought you Five Nights at Freddy's. From what I gather from the trailer, is a family, a daughter and the mother moved back into her childhood home. Her beloved teddy bear is there, and the child becomes imaginary friends with it, and all hell breaks loose, and the teddy bear goes on a rampage, and I do not have high hopes for it. It is the people that brought you Five Nights at Freddy's, and it's a killer teddy bear. So do with that what you want, but I don't think I'm going to be part of it, to be honest with you.
So it's basically like Ted, but a horror movie?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I thought when I first saw it. I was like, oh, okay, cool, this is going to be Ted. It's set to come out March 8th, 2024. Now that the strike's over, with the writers and the actors, they're kicking out so many movies. I know Scream 7 goes in production. They're already signed up Campbell. Patrick Dempsey from Thanksgiving is back, it looks like. Another It. I don't know what is it a reboot or not a reboot? I'm not sure. But there's another It coming out, the TV show.
Really?
Welcome to Derry TV show.
Huh.
Camp Crystal Lake TV show is coming. So they're cramming everything into one, and they're releasing a whole bunch next year and the following year. So we might have a lot to look at,
Interesting.
Well, that's all I got.
Cool.
This episode.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. Thanks for coming on, Kyle, and for heading the episode. Thanks to our new patrons on Patreon. And if you're a patron, you'll get to listen to the Afterpod after this show. We leave the mics running, and you get to hear what's going on with me and Kyle. Maybe there's laughter, maybe there's tears. Who knows? You don't know unless you pay us. Special thanks to Dustin, Kyle again, and to everyone that's helped us out. Keep going. If you want to leave us a voicemail, call 682-253-4468, and we'll see you later.
Thank you, everybody.